Hey, all you hair care loving ladies out there. This is Numi 2004, also known as D Princess 28 on YouTube. I decided to do this hair video because I haven't even updated my Foci album in a long time, but I've been receiving a ton of love and support from you ladies out there who have added me as your friend. And, I just wanted to do something different than just post a progress picture. And also, I felt the need to do this because, I just want black women out there in particular to know that you can grow your hair long and your hair can be 100% natural. You don't have to rely on relaxers to get the look that you desire. Now, I am not a licensed cosmetologist. I'm not claiming that everything that I do is for everyone out there. It's just basically this video is about things that have worked for me, and the stuff that I'm talking about is nothing new. Like I said, I've been a member of the hair care boards for quite some time now, Long Hair Care Forum in particular. I'm also an avid reader of hair care, black hair care magazines. And so a lot of the tips that I'm going to give in this video are just tips that I've learned from being on the hair care boards and reading what's already out there. So I'm going to go ahead and start. This video is just basically going to be 10 tips on how to grow long, healthy, natural hair. All right, and let's start with tip number one. Okay, so tip number one is to wash your hair at least once a week. The reason why I think that's very important is because in order to maintain a healthy scalp, you need to have a clean scalp, and our hair grows out of our scalp. Especially if you work out. I like to work out at least 4 to 5 times a week, and there is no way that I could go longer than a week with product buildup and sweat in my hair, because sweat, as we all know, has salt in it, which is very drying to the hair. And that actually leads me to tip number two. Okay, so tip number two is to rinse your hair between workouts. I'm not saying every time you work out you have to rinse your hair, but because I am natural and I do wear my hair in its natural state, which is curly, probably a good 60% of the time, if not more than that, I have no problem rinsing my hair in between workouts. Like I said earlier, sweat has salt in it, and salt can strip your hair of all the necessary oils it needs to stay healthy. So it really is important to rinse your hair after a workout. Okay, so tip number three is to detangle your hair in the shower. Now, this is particularly important for those of you who have really, really tight curls. My curl pattern is a little looser, but still, there are days when I wouldn't even dare try to comb through my hair while it's dry. And so I like to use my trusty little shower comb. This thing was only like $1 something at the drugstore, and it has this cool little hook on the end so that you can hang it and keep it in your shower at all times, and it's a wide tooth comb. So after I put the conditioner in, then I comb through my curls with this, and always start at the bottom, work your way up, and it's perfect because once you get out, your curls are already been detangled. So that is tip number three. Okay, so tip number four is to deep condition your hair at least once a month. I think it's very important to prep the hair for heat, and so I deep condition every time I prepare to flat iron my hair. So yes, deep conditioning your hair is definitely important because it's just giving your hair that R&R that it doesn't normally get when you're doing your normal daily styling. So tip number five is to keep your hair moisturized. As black women, we all know that our hair does not naturally, we don't have the natural oils that our Caucasian brothers and sisters have. Actually, our hair does produce natural oils, but because of our curl pattern, our oils don't make it to the ends of our hair. And the ends of the hair are the oldest and usually the driest part of the hair. So it's very important after being out, even just being out in the wind in the sun is damaging to your hair. And so it is important to moisturize the ends, put the moisture back into your hair that it's lost during the day, and it also helps prevent split ends as well. Tip number six is to not apply heat more than once a week. We all know that heat can be very damaging to our hair. And I just don't think that our hair is geared to handle all that heat. I mean, some people, hey, they can straighten their hair every day. More power to them. I think you probably could, but you would have to prep the hair. Definitely prep the hair for heat, but that's not something that I would ever encourage anybody to do. Applying heat is just very damaging to the hair, and you should really be cautious with that. Tip number 7, since we're already on the topic of heat, is to use a good heat protectant. I don't care what anybody says. Some people say they do not put anything in their hair when they flat iron or blow dry. I still don't think that's a good idea. I think you should put some type of conditioner in your hair before you flat iron it. I do like to use olive oil. That's my heat protectant of choice. I use organic root stimulator olive oil lotion, and all it takes is just, I would say, maybe a quarter size amount to get my hair straight like this. So I know a lot of people don't like to put heat protectant or oil in their hair because they feel like it's going to weigh the hair down and make it heavy, but it doesn't even take that much to really prepare the hair for heat. So tip number 8 is to avoid any, I said gels because I think gel is something that a lot of African American women use, especially to slick their edges down. And unfortunately, a lot of them do contain alcohol in it, which is very, very, can be very drying and damaging to the hair. But I would say stay away from any products that have a lot of alcohol in it because alcohol, like I said, is very drying. So everybody's different. You have to find a gel that's right for you. And a good way to tell, like some gels say they don't have any alcohol in it, but a good way to tell is if you use it for a day and if your hair starts flaking, most likely it has some amount of alcohol in it. And I would suggest you don't use it after that. Tip number 9 is to trim your ends regularly. I'd say at least 6 to 8 weeks. I know there seems to be a lot of controversy out there on the hair care boards. Some people don't like to trim their ends at all, which really scares me. I just for me, I cannot stand raggedy ends. I mean, I think it's more important to have a nice thick head full of hair than long stringy strands of hair. We all know that split ends, they can basically, a split end is when one single strand splits up the shaft, and if it continues to go up the shaft, if you don't trim it off when it starts low, ooh, and I have one right here, perfect example. So if you don't trim it off when it starts low, it'll continue to split all the way up the shaft, which means it'll eventually break and fall off, and your hair will get thin. And a lot of people don't see growth because their hair is breaking off constantly, because like I said, the sun, the wind, whatever heat you're applying to it or wear and tear you're doing to your hair and the way you style it, all that can lead to breakage and split ends. And it's very important to trim those ends regularly just to keep those splits at bay. Okay, so last but not least, tip number 10 is to wrap your hair up at night. I think it's good to use, we always talk about using satin or silk scarves because unlike cotton, they don't cause a lot of friction on our hair, and they keep the hairs in place without, like I said, causing a lot of friction, and which will lead to split ends or just your hair to break off at night, especially rubbing up against the pillow. So some people don't like wrapping their hair up because they think it just looks hideous, especially if you're sharing the bed with your significant other. So another way to do that, to protect your hair from rubbing off and breaking off at night, is to get some satin pillowcases. Thank you so much, everybody, for bearing with me and listening to my 10 tips. I hope these tips work for you. Like I said, I'm not claiming to be a hair guru. I'm just simply a chick who's had some pretty bad hair experiences, but I was luckily, over time able to grow my hair back to a pretty healthy state, and I hope these tips work for you. So with that, take care, and I will see you next time.